Something felt off the moment Caleb didn't show up at the ranch. Fans instantly noticed. He wasn't in the usual scenes, and when he did appear, he seemed distant, like his mind was somewhere else. And now, out of nowhere, a shocking confession from Vancouver has completely changed the game. Caleb isn't just hiding something. He's been carrying a secret that could shake the entire Heartland family. It all started when Caleb took an unexpected trip to Vancouver, something that wasn't fully explained on the show. At first, it looked like a quick getaway or maybe just a break from his regular routine. But the truth behind it runs much deeper. While the show didn't give us every detail, small clues began to drop, and now with the reveal of his Vancouver confession, it's clear that something major happened off-screen. Fans who followed his journey know that Caleb isn't one to run from his problems. He usually faces them head-on, with that rodeo cowboy spirit we've seen for years. So why now? Why leave without warning? And why keep quiet for so long? Some believe Caleb's distance was building up for a while. In earlier episodes of season 19, he had moments where his energy didn't feel right. He wasn't as involved in ranch work. He didn't have the same fire in his eyes during family moments. And even with Cassandra, things felt a little off. The chemistry was different. Conversations were shorter, and sometimes they weren't even in the same scenes. Something was clearly changing. But no one expected a full-blown confession tied to a trip across the country. As more details surfaced, it became clear that Caleb's time in Vancouver wasn't just for a vacation. Some reports say he had personal matters to handle, something tied to his past. Others believe it had to do with a big decision he's been struggling with, possibly involving his future, his career, or even a personal loss. Whatever the reason, it's serious enough that he's been avoiding facing the people closest to him. And now, it's all starting to unravel. This unexpected move has fans asking, is Caleb planning to leave Heartland for good? Did he find something or someone in Vancouver that's pulling him away? Or is this just a temporary break that helps him come back stronger? All these questions are now flooding forums and fan pages as the mystery around Caleb grows deeper. But one thing is certain: the calm, steady cowboy we've known for years is suddenly at the center of a storm. And this is just the beginning. The next chapter in Caleb's story might be his most emotional one yet. There's no such thing as a sudden goodbye. Not in Heartland. And definitely not with someone like Caleb. If you look closely, the signs were always there: small cracks in the routine, emotional pauses in conversations, and a slow drift from the people he once called family. While most viewers were focused on the bigger storylines, Amy's healing journey, Lyndy growing up, and the future of the ranch, Caleb was quietly slipping into the background. And now that we know about his Vancouver confession, it's impossible not to rewind and ask, what pushed him to this point? It wasn't just one moment. It was a build-up. Caleb had always been the strong one, the one who jumped in to help with the horses, offered advice, or brought a laugh when things got tense. But something shifted at the start of season 19. His scenes were shorter, his presence felt disconnected, and when he did speak, it sounded like he was holding something back. His conversations with Jack felt shallow, his usual bond with Amy didn't carry the same spark, and even the dynamic with Tim, normally filled with tough love and friendly banter, felt cold. The show never shouted it out, but if you were watching closely, Caleb was slowly pulling away. Then there's Cassandra. Their relationship had its highs and lows, but they always found their way back. Until now. In the last few episodes, we saw more distance than connection. They were rarely in the same room. When they were, it felt like they were just going through the motions. There was no mention of big plans, no arguments, no tenderness, just silence. And that silence spoke volumes. It's possible that their marriage has hit a point where the love is still there, but it's not enough to keep them together. Caleb may have felt like he was becoming a shadow in his own life. And let's not forget Caleb's inner struggle with purpose. After years of working on the ranch, helping with rodeo training, and being a strong support for others, he started asking the bigger questions: what's next for him? He's not the same man he was when he first arrived at Heartland. He's older now, a father, and likely dealing with dreams he never got to chase. Maybe Vancouver offered something Heartland couldn't: closure, opportunity, or even just a fresh start. But whatever it was strong enough to make him pack his bags and step away from the life he helped build. The most painful part is this: nobody saw it coming. Jack, Amy, Tim, they all trusted Caleb to be there. He was more than a friend. He was family. And now, with his quiet retreat and a confession that still hasn't been fully explained, that trust feels shaken. The people at Heartland have faced losses before, but this one hits different. Caleb didn't leave in anger. He left in silence. And that silence is haunting everyone who's still trying to figure out what really happened. This wasn't just a decision made in the heat of the moment. This was a slow burn, emotions buried, choices postponed, pain ignored until it all became too much to carry. And when he finally spoke up, it wasn't at Heartland. It was in Vancouver. Vancouver wasn't just a destination, it was an escape. Caleb didn't go there just to clear his head or take a break. He went because something or someone was waiting. And now, fans are starting to connect the dots. The more we learn, the more it feels like this trip wasn't random at all. Caleb didn't stumble into a new city, he was drawn there by a voice from his past, a memory that never fully faded, a door he thought had closed, finally cracking back open. Whispers of who Caleb met in Vancouver have taken over fan theories online. Some say it was a former rodeo buddy offering him a second chance to rejoin the competitive world. Others believe it was a family member, maybe a brother, or even his father, someone he hadn't seen in years. But the most emotional theory? Caleb didn't just reconnect with a person, he reconnected with a part of himself. The part that still wants to ride, the part that still dreams, the part that feels alive outside the fences of Heartland. But let's dig deeper. Imagine Caleb sitting alone in a quiet Vancouver cafe when a familiar face walks in. Maybe it's an old flame, someone he knew before Cassandra. Maybe it's a woman he met on the rodeo circuit years ago, someone who meant something but was left behind for the life he chose at Heartland. And now, she's back. Not in the past, not in a dream, but real, right in front of him. What if she's the one who made him question everything? Or maybe the connection wasn't romantic at all. Maybe it was about legacy. Caleb's been a father, a husband, a ranch hand, a cowboy. But he's also a man who gave up a lot to be those things. What if someone in Vancouver offered him a chance to start something new, a training school for young riders, a business venture, or even a mentorship program for retired rodeo athletes? Something that reignites his passion and makes him feel like his life still has chapters to write beyond Heartland. And then there's the unspoken option, the emotional truth no one wants to say out loud. What if Caleb didn't go to Vancouver to find someone else, but to finally find peace? Maybe he's been carrying guilt, heartbreak, or personal regret that he never shared with anyone. What if the person he met wasn't someone from the outside world, but a therapist or a grief counselor? The cowboy's way has always been to ride through the pain, but maybe this time Caleb needed help getting off the horse and facing what hurt. Whatever the truth is, it's clear that Vancouver changed him. He came back with a weight in his eyes and silence in his steps. He's been quieter, more distant, like he's already somewhere else in his mind. And the worst part, he hasn't told anyone the full story, not Amy, not Jack, not even Cassandra. Whatever happened there, it's still locked inside him. And that's what's tearing Heartland apart. He's physically present, but emotionally missing. And the more he avoids the truth, the more his absence is felt. The man who once rode into Heartland with strength and purpose is now standing at a crossroads. And everything about Vancouver is pointing to one thing. Caleb is about to make a choice that could change the future forever. He stood there, eyes heavy, voice low, then came the moment no one saw coming. Caleb finally spoke. After weeks of silence, after days of pretending nothing had changed, he dropped the truth like a storm. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it hit harder than anything. Because Caleb, the cowboy who's been the backbone of Heartland for years, finally admitted that he's thinking of walking away. And not just from the ranch, but from the life he's built there. It started with a quiet conversation, just him and Jack, under the open sky, where so many truths have come out before. Caleb said the words slowly, like each one hurt to say. He confessed that while Vancouver started as just a short visit, it became something more. It woke something up in him, something he didn't even know was still there. The city, the people, the feeling of being outside the world he'd known for so long. It reminded him that he'd stopped dreaming. He'd settled into the safety of routine, but deep down, he felt stuck. And then came the part that truly shocked Jack and would leave fans speechless. Caleb admitted that he met someone, not in a romantic way, but someone who showed him a mirror. An old friend from his rodeo days who had left the circuit years ago and built something new, a training camp for young riders, a place to give back. That friend had offered him a spot, a leadership role, a fresh start in Vancouver. And Caleb didn't just listen, he considered it seriously. But what cut the deepest was when Caleb looked Jack in the eye and said, "I don't know who I am anymore when I'm not on a horse. And I don't know if this place still needs me the way it used to." That sentence wasn't just about a job, it was about identity. Heartland has always been a place for healing, for family, for new beginnings. But for Caleb, it's starting to feel like the end of a chapter. He didn't blame anyone. Not Amy, not Cassandra, not the ranch. In fact, he said he still loves them all, but loving them doesn't mean he's still meant to stay. And that's what broke through the calm cowboy mask he always wears. Behind it is a man who's tired, confused, and scared to say goodbye, but even more scared to stay and keep pretending everything's okay. When Jack asked if he was leaving for good, Caleb didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. All he said was, "I need to figure out who I am outside of this place." And with that, the weight of the confession landed not just on Jack but on the entire Heartland legacy. This wasn't about betrayal. It wasn't about running. It was about searching for purpose, for peace, for something that feels real again. Caleb isn't angry. He's not lost. He's just ready for something else. And for a character who's been through so much loss, love, change, that readiness is both heartbreaking and honest. Now, everyone at Heartland is left wondering, is this the beginning of Caleb's next chapter, or the final page of his story at the ranch? The air felt heavier after Caleb's confession. At first, no one spoke. Jack just stood there, stunned, not angry, not even disappointed, just quiet, like he knew this moment was coming but hoped it never would. Back at the ranch, life kept moving. Horses still needed feeding, fences needed fixing, but something had shifted. The heart of the ranch didn't feel the same. And Amy? She could sense it the second Caleb rode back from that talk with Jack. His shoulders were lower, his steps slower. That spark he always carried was gone. Amy has known Caleb for years. They've been through everything from wild rodeos to personal heartbreaks. He's been her rock more times than she can count, the big brother she never had. So when he finally opened up to Jack but kept her in the dark, it hurt. She didn't say it out loud, but you could see it in her eyes. She felt left behind, not because Caleb owed her anything, but because when someone you love starts slipping away, you feel it deep in your chest even before they say a word. When Amy finally got him alone in the barn, the truth came pouring out, not just from him, but from her too. She didn't ask him to stay. She didn't beg him to change his mind. She simply said, "You were part of the reason I kept going after Ty." And that single sentence hit harder than any emotional speech. Because in Caleb's grief, in his jokes, in his presence, she found comfort. And now, that comfort was fading. Jack, on the other hand, carried the weight differently. He understood Caleb in a way only a man who's lived a long, complicated life could. He didn't try to talk him out of leaving. Instead, he reminded him of what Heartland stands for: second chances, fresh starts, family. Jack told Caleb, "If you go, don't forget who you are. Because this place didn't make you strong. You were strong before you ever got here." It was Jack's way of letting go, firm, loving, and honest. But it didn't make it any easier. And then came Cassandra. Her reaction was the hardest to watch. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She simply stared at Caleb like she didn't recognize him anymore. The man she built a life with, the father of her child, was now making decisions that didn't include her. Caleb tried to explain. He said he wasn't leaving them, just trying to find himself again. But for Cassandra, it sounded like goodbye. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. The fallout wasn't explosive. It was quiet. And that's what made it hurt more. No fights, no drama, just a slow realization that the family they built might not be enough to keep Caleb from drifting away. Heartland has seen its share of heartbreak. People leave, people come back, but this one feels different. Because this isn't just about someone going away, it's about someone searching for meaning. And sometimes that search takes you far from the people you love most. The ranch will go on. The horses will still run. Amy will still heal. Jack will still guide. Cassandra will still hold her ground. But the space Caleb leaves behind, that won't be filled so easily. Some exits are loud, doors slammed, tires spinning in the dirt. But Caleb's possible goodbye? It's the kind that lingers. No dramatic ride off into the sunset. No final words. Just an open-ended pause. Like a sentence that's missing its last few words. Now the question echoing across Heartland, and in the hearts of every fan, is simple but impossible to answer. Is Caleb coming back? Or has he already made peace with leaving for good? If you look at how Caleb's been carrying himself lately, the signs are hard to ignore. He's not fighting to stay. He's not chasing answers. He's just letting go. Not in anger, not in pain, but in quiet acceptance. For someone like Caleb, who's always been full of fire and purpose, that kind of stillness feels louder than any argument. It's not about whether he loves Heartland. He does, that's clear. It's about whether he still sees himself in it. And that's what makes this situation more painful. Caleb isn't running from anything. He's not upset with Amy or Jack, or even Cassandra. This isn't about blame. It's about growth, about reaching a point in life where staying starts to feel like standing still. The kind of crossroads that forces you to choose between the life you've built and the life you might still have time to build. But what makes the whole thing even more complicated is Heartland's history with goodbyes. We've seen people leave before. Ty, Mallory, Georgie. Some came back, some didn't. But every exit left a mark. And Caleb's departure, if it becomes real, would be another deep cut. Because unlike others, Caleb was always there. Through the losses, through the milestones, through the healing. He's the guy who stayed. And now, for the first time, he's the one slipping away. Still, a part of him is clearly torn. You can see it in his eyes when he looks at Amy and Lyndy, when he talks to Jack, when he watches the horses run through the fields. These are the pieces of his life that still matter, pieces that feel like home. But sometimes even home can become a place you outgrow no matter how much you love it. And for a cowboy like Caleb, who once lived for the ride, the idea of starting over might feel less like leaving, and more like coming back to himself. There's also the lingering question of Cassandra and their son. Caleb might be questioning his role at the ranch, but fatherhood isn't something he can walk away from. Not really. That bond is deeper than any confession, stronger than any offer Vancouver could throw at him. So if anything pulls him back, it won't be guilt. It'll be love. And maybe, just maybe, that's the thread that ties him to Heartland long enough to find a new reason to stay. But as things stand now, Caleb is in between. One foot in the past, one reaching toward the unknown. He hasn't said goodbye, but he hasn't said he's staying either. And for a character built on strength, loyalty, and second chances, that silence feels like the most fragile place he's ever been. Maybe he'll return, ready to rebuild. Or maybe the next time we see him, he'll be watching from afar, smiling, grateful, but no longer part of the picture. Either way, Caleb's story isn't over. It's just unfinished. This isn't just about Caleb anymore. It's about Heartland itself and how his silent goodbye could reshape everything we thought we knew about Season 19. His absence leaves a space that can't simply be filled with new storylines or background characters. It changes the rhythm of the ranch, the tone of the family, and the direction of the show moving forward. Heartland has always been about connection, healing, and rebuilding. But now, it's facing something far more personal, a slow emotional unraveling. With Caleb potentially stepping away, the rest of Season 19 begins to look very different. Jack is no longer just the wise guide, he's now carrying more than just the ranch on his shoulders. He's dealing with the fear of losing someone he saw as a second son. Amy, still healing in her own way, is being pushed into yet another layer of adulthood, understanding that sometimes people leave even when there's love. And Cassandra? She's not just facing heartbreak. She's facing the possibility of raising her child with a man who might no longer be fully present in their lives. But Heartland doesn't run from its emotions. It leans into them. And that's exactly where the story is heading now. We're no longer just watching family dramas or horse rescues. We're watching a slow transformation where every character is forced to grow, let go, or fight to hold on. The writers know this. They've always made the show less about perfect endings and more about real ones. So don't expect quick answers or dramatic twists. Expect quiet moments that sting, long silences that speak louder than words, and decisions that will test the strength of every relationship in the series. Season 19 could become the most emotional chapter in Heartland's history, not because of tragedy, but because of transition. And if Caleb doesn't return, we may see new characters rise to fill the practical gaps he leaves behind. But emotionally, that gap will remain, maybe for the rest of the series. The show might use his departure to explore themes of identity, emotional burnout, and the challenge of balancing personal dreams with family responsibilities. Topics that aren't just relevant to Caleb but to every character at the ranch. And what about the fans? Caleb's possible exit will stir powerful reactions. Some will feel betrayed, others will understand. Many will hope for a redemption arc, an emotional return in the finale, or a surprise reappearance down the line. Because in Heartland, nothing is ever truly over. Sometimes the people we love go away, only to find their way back when we least expected. As we move into the final episodes of Season 19, there's one truth that hangs above everything. Heartland is changing. Not in a dramatic, end of an era kind of way, but in a quiet, deeply human one. The kind of change that sneaks up on you. The kind that hurts, but also the kind that leads to the most powerful moments the show has ever created. So what does Caleb's confession mean for Heartland's future? It means we're no longer watching a show about survival. We're watching a show about choosing who you want to become when everything safe starts to fade. And that's what makes this season unforgettable.